I never thought much about airports until Mason started picking me up from them. My brother Dylan was supposed to be my ride, like always, but somehow it became Mason's thing. Every single time I flew home from college, there he'd be, leaning against his car in the pickup lane, scrolling through his phone with that slight smile he always had, like he knew something I didn't. The first time it happened was winter break, freshman year. I texted Dylan that my flight landed at 8, and he sent back a thumbs up. Simple enough. But when I walked out of baggage claim, dragging my suitcase behind me, it was Mason's beat-up Honda I saw, not Dylan's truck. Mason was Dylan's best friend since middle school, practically lived at our house growing up, but we'd never been particularly close. He was just always there, part of the background noise of my childhood. He pushed off from the car when he saw me, and I remember thinking he looked different somehow. Taller maybe, or maybe I'd just never really looked at him before. Dylan got caught up at work, he said, taking my suitcase before I could protest. Told me to come get you instead. You didn't have to do that, I said, climbing into the passenger seat. The car smelled like coffee and something else, something clean that I couldn't quite place. I know, he said, and that was it. We drove the 40 minutes home mostly in silence, but it wasn't awkward. He asked about school, I gave generic answers. He told me about his new job at the tech startup downtown. Normal stuff. Forgettable, except I found myself remembering it later, lying in my childhood bed staring at the ceiling. Spring break. Same thing. Dylan texted the night before saying Mason would pick me up. I told him not to worry about it, that I could just take an Uber, but Dylan insisted. Mason's already planning on it, dude. He doesn't mind. Something about the way he said it made me pause, but I shrugged it off. This time, when I saw Mason waiting, I noticed more details. The way he stood with his hands in his jacket pockets. The way his hair curled slightly at his neck because he always waited too long between haircuts. The way his eyes crinkled when he smiled. "Hey, stranger," he said, and my stomach did this weird flip that I absolutely did not analyse. The drive home was different this time. We actually talked. Really talked. He told me about his messy breakup with his girlfriend of 2 years, how he'd moved into his own apartment, how he was trying to figure out what he actually wanted from life, instead of what he thought he should want. I found myself opening up too, admitting that I wasn't sure about my major, that I felt like everyone else had it figured out and I was just pretending. "Nobody has it figured out," he said, glancing at me before turning his eyes back to the road. "We're all just pretending at different levels." I laughed and he smiled and something shifted, and I felt it in my chest, this warmth that spread outward, and I thought, oh no, oh no, no, no. Summer came and I got an internship 3 states away. When I flew home for the 4th of July weekend, I didn't even have to ask. Mason texted me directly this time. Flight info. Just those 2 words, and I sent him my itinerary without thinking twice. He was there early, parked in his usual spot. I saw him before he saw me, and I let myself look, really look for a moment. He was wearing a faded blue t-shirt and jeans, nothing special, but my heart was racing like I'd sprinted through the terminal. When he spotted me, his whole face lit up, and I knew I was in trouble. Deep, complicated trouble. "How was the flight?" he asked, pulling me into a quick hug that I definitely overthought for the next 3 days. "Long," I said, trying to sound normal, trying not to notice how solid he felt, how he smelled like that same clean scent I'd been unable to identify. "Thanks for doing this again." "Stop thanking me," he said, loading my bag into the trunk. "I like airport runs. It's meditative." "You're weird," I said, and he laughed, and I wanted to record that sound, keep it somewhere safe. We stopped for food on the way home, some diner off the highway that was probably a health code violation waiting to happen. But the coffee was good and the fries were hot. We sat across from each other in a cracked vinyl booth, and I watched him steal fries off my plate even though he'd ordered his own. "So," he said, dragging a fry through ketchup, "you seeing anyone?" The question caught me off guard. "What?" "No." "Why?" He shrugged, not meeting my eyes. "Just curious. Dylan mentioned you'd been weird about it when he asked." I had been weird about it, because how do you tell your older brother that you've spent the last 6 months having a slow-motion sexuality crisis centered around his best friend? "Just haven't met anyone interesting," I said, which was technically true if you didn't count the person sitting across from me. "Yeah," he said, and something in his voice made me look up. He was watching me with this expression I couldn't read. "Me neither." We stayed at that diner for 2 hours, talking about everything and nothing. He told me about his sister's wedding. I told him about my roommate's obsession with true crime podcasts. He showed me photos of his nephew. I showed him the stray cat that hung around my apartment building. It was easy and comfortable, and I never wanted it to end. When we finally got back to my parents' house, Dylan was already asleep on the couch, some action movie playing on mute. Mason helped me carry my stuff inside, and we stood in the doorway for a moment, neither of us moving. "Thanks again," I said quietly, not wanting to wake Dylan. "Seriously, stop thanking me," Mason said, but he was smiling. "See you tomorrow? Dylan's doing that barbecue thing." "Yeah," I said. "See you tomorrow." I watched him walk back to his car, watched him drive away, and felt my chest ache with wanting something I couldn't name. The barbecue was torture. Mason was there with his family, being charming and funny and completely oblivious to the fact that I couldn't stop looking at him. Every time he laughed, every time he ran his hand through his hair, every time he caught my eye across the yard and smiled, I felt it like a physical thing. My mum cornered me by the potato salad. "Mason's such a sweet boy," she said, in that tone mums use when they're fishing for information. "Always so thoughtful, picking you up from the airport." "Yeah," I said, focusing very hard on the potato salad. "He's nice." "He seems different lately," she continued, undeterred. "Happier, maybe. Dylan said he's been in a really good mood the last few months." I made a non-committal sound and escaped to help my dad with the grill, but her words stuck with me. The last few months, since winter break, since he started picking me up. "No," I told myself firmly. "Don't go there. Don't read into it. He's Dylan's best friend. He's straight. He's just being nice." But then, late that night, when most people had left and it was just family and close friends sitting around the fire pit, Mason sat down next to me. Not across from me, not near me, but right next to me, close enough that our shoulders touched. "You cold?" he asked, because I was hugging my knees to my chest. "A little," I admitted. He disappeared for a moment and came back with a blanket, draping it over both of us. We sat there in the firelight, not talking, just existing in the same space, and I thought I might die from the sweetness of it. "I'm glad you're home," he said quietly, so quietly I almost missed it. "It's just for the weekend," I reminded him. "I know," he said. "Still glad." I flew back to my internship on Sunday, and Mason drove me to the airport. Of course he did. We didn't talk much on the drive, but he kept glancing at me, and I kept catching him, and the air felt heavy with things neither of us was saying. At the drop-off, he got out to help with my bag. "When's your next trip home?" he asked. 3 weeks, I said. "August before fall semester starts." "Text me your flight info," he said, and it wasn't a question. "Mason," I started. Not sure what I wanted to say, just knowing I needed to say something. "Yeah?" He was looking at me with those eyes, and my brain short-circuited. "Never mind," I said. "I'll text you." He nodded, and for a second I thought he might hug me goodbye, but he just squeezed my shoulder and told me to have a safe flight. I thought about him the entire flight back. I thought about him during my internship. I thought about him when I couldn't sleep, when I was supposed to be working, when I was trying to focus on literally anything else. I was completely gone for him, and I had no idea what to do about it. 3 weeks later, my flight got delayed. Maintenance issues, they said, could be another 3 hours. I texted Mason to let him know, told him not to wait, that I'd just grab a ride share. He texted back immediately. "I'll wait." "It could be 3 hours," I typed. "I'll wait," he sent again, and then, "Got a book and coffee, I'm good." Something about that made my eyes sting. I sat in the terminal surrounded by irritated travellers and felt this overwhelming wave of emotion. He was going to wait 3 hours just to drive me home. Who does that? The delay ended up being 4 hours. By the time I finally walked out of baggage claim, it was almost midnight. Mason was there, looking tired but smiling when he saw me. "You waited," I said stupidly. "I said I would," he replied, taking my bag. "Come on, let's get you home." We were both exhausted, punchy from the late hour. Somewhere around the 20-minute mark, I started laughing at something. I don't even remember what, and couldn't stop. Mason started laughing too, and we were just two idiots laughing in a car at midnight for no reason. "I missed you," he said when we'd calmed down, and my heart stopped. "You saw me 3 weeks ago," I said. "I know," he said. "Still missed you." I didn't know what to say to that, so I said nothing. We drove in silence for a while, and then he asked, "Can I tell you something?" "Sure," I said, my pulse suddenly racing. I look forward to your flights home, he said, eyes on the road. Like, more than I should probably admit. The airport runs, they're the best part of my month. And I know that's weird. I know it's just driving. But I like it. I like our talks. I like spending time with you. My mouth was dry. It's not weird, I managed. It feels weird, he said. Because you're Dylan's little brother, and I've known you since you were in middle school, and I shouldn't. He stopped, his jaw tight. Shouldn't what? I asked quietly. He pulled into my parents' driveway and put the car in park, but didn't turn it off. The engine hummed in the silence. I shouldn't feel the way I feel about you, he said finally, looking at me. But I do. The world tilted. Mason, you don't have to say anything, he said quickly. I just needed to tell you. I've been going crazy keeping it in. If it's weird, if you want me to back off, I will. I'll tell Dylan I can't do the airport thing anymore. I don't want you to back off, I interrupted. I've been losing my mind over you for months. Every time you pick me up, every time you smile at me, every time we talk, I ran my hands through my hair, frustrated at my inability to articulate what I was feeling. You're all I think about. He stared at me, and I stared back, and then he was leaning across the console, and I was meeting him halfway, and we were kissing in his car in my parents' driveway like teenagers. His hand cupped my face, and I grabbed his shirt, and it was messy and desperate and absolutely perfect. When we finally broke apart, both breathing hard, he pressed his forehead to mine. I've wanted to do that since spring break, he whispered. I've wanted you to do that since spring break, I whispered back. We sat there for a long moment, just breathing each other in. What do we do now? I asked. I don't know, he admitted. I need to talk to Dylan. This is going to be weird for him. Yeah, I agreed, because it would be. My brother's best friend and his little brother. Not exactly a conventional situation. But I want to figure it out, Mason said, pulling back to look at me. If you do. I do, I said, and meant it with everything in me. We talked until almost 2 a.m, sitting in that car, making plans, admitting feelings, kissing until we were dizzy with it. He told me he'd started volunteering for airport runs because he wanted an excuse to see me alone. I told him I'd been checking flight prices obsessively just to have a reason to come home more often. We're idiots, he said fondly. Complete idiots, I agreed. When I finally went inside, I felt like I was floating. I lay in bed texting him even though he was probably still in his car, and he texted back immediately. We texted until we both fell asleep. The next morning, Mason came over to talk to Dylan. I made myself scarce, hiding in my room like a coward while they talked in the backyard. After an hour, Dylan knocked on my door. So, he said, leaning against the doorframe, Mason told me. And? My heart was pounding. And it's weird, Dylan said honestly, like really weird. But also, I've never seen him like this. And you look happier than you've been in months. So it's weird, but good weird, I think. I exhaled in relief. You're okay with it? I'm adjusting to it, he corrected. But yeah, I'm okay with it. Just don't make me pick sides if you guys fight. Deal, I said. Mason and I took it slow at first, or as slow as you can take something when you've been pining for months. We texted constantly, video called when we could, counted down the days until I came home again. And when I did fly home, he was there, always there, waiting at the airport with that smile that was just for me now. My next flight home was for Thanksgiving. I walked out of baggage claim and spotted him immediately. And this time when he pulled me into a hug, he didn't let go quickly. He held me tight and I buried my face in his neck and felt home in a way that had nothing to do with geography. Hey, he said softly. Hey yourself, I said back. Ready to go home? He asked. I pulled back to look at him. At this person who'd volunteered to pick me up from the airport every time, who'd waited 4 hours for a delayed flight, who'd had the courage to tell me how he felt. Yeah, I said. I'm ready. We walked to his car hand in hand, and I realized the thing I'd been unable to identify in his car all those months ago was just him. The scent was just Mason, and now I got to keep it. Got to keep him. Got to keep these airport runs and late-night conversations and everything else we'd build together. Same time next month, he asked as we pulled out of the parking garage. Same time next month, I confirmed, and every month after that. He smiled, lacing his fingers through mine. I'm going to hold you to that. And he did, every single time.